hockey fans, and welcome to another edition of Anatomy of a Season, the series where we take a look at a given hockey team during a given season, month by month, and sometimes playoff series by playoff series. However, this past year in the 2022-2023 season, we were asked the burning question: is this Boston Bruins team the greatest team of all time? Nah, you'd have to win a playoff series to even be considered. That bunch of chokers aren't even worthy to sniff the jocks of the 1995-96 Red Wings. They're a notch below the 92-93 Penguins and slightly above the 2018-2019 Tampa Bay Lightning. Ah yes, and to top it off, there are many fans sharing a brain out there said how this Bruins team can beat the quote slow-ass Habs of 1977, that they'd own Gretzky or Lemieux in their prime, and that there were 20 Guy Lafleurs in the NHL today, yada yada yada. Well, they're choking on their words much like Boston did in the playoffs. But we're not looking at those Habs today, so after looking at a couple underdog stories in my last few episodes, let's look at a team that actually is among the greatest of all time, and can actually lay claim to that. Sometimes it's fun to look at teams that are just out of this world. Oh yes, the 1983-84 Edmonton Oilers. Oh, you can just feel that greatness radiating off your phone or computer screen. I bet some of you are even saying right now, we're not worthy, and you'd be right about that. So indeed, this will be a two-part series on this Oilers team, which was youthful and talented at the wazoo. But what led up to this point? Well, it's time for a backstory. At this point by 1983, the Edmonton Oilers haven't had an overly long history, but it's traced back, of course, to the Rebel Hockey League, the WHA, as the Alberta Oilers were one of the 12 teams to be part of the WHA's inaugural season in 1972-73. The following year, they became the Edmonton Oilers and would stay that way. They weren't exactly all that good, despite a couple playoff appearances by 1976, and they had a couple good players come through. They had Mike Rogers, NHL Hall of Famer Norm Allman, Rusty Patnode, and Blair McDonald. They were all all-stars up front. On defense, they had Al Hamilton, Barry Long, and Doug Barry, and even one of the greatest of all time in net, Jacques Plante, and Ken Dryden's older brother, Dave. During the 1976-77 season, Bill Flood was the biggest star on this barely average team. They also acquired NHL journeyman winger Glen Sather. However, late in the season, coach Bep Gwydlin was let go, and Sather, while still an active hockey player, took over as the team's head coach. The following season, Sather retired as a hockey player at the age of 34 and became the team's full-time coach. The team showed vast improvement under Sather for the 77-78 season as a new superstar emerged in Ron Chipperfield, while Flood and McDonald also remained big guns for the club. Also, they added the likes of Brett Callaghan and Norm Ferguson around this time, and they were emerging talents, while Al Hamilton and Paul Schmier bolstered a talented defense with Dave Langevin and Joe Micheletti, with Dave Dryden backstopping the team. For the decade of the 1970s, the hockey world was buzzing about some kid from Brantford, Ontario, by the name of Wayne Gretzky. Going into the 1978-79 season, Wayne had put on a superb performance that year earlier in the 1978 World Junior Championships for Team Canada and scored 70 goals, 112 assists for 182 points in just 64 games for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Again, he had only turned just 17 in January of 1978, and indeed now at the age of 17 he was going to be playing pro hockey. He was still too young for NHL guidelines, but he was eligible to play in the WHA, as their age minimum was another way for them to try to compete with the NHL. Unfortunately, the Racers were on the verge of ceasing operations. Oilers owner Peter Pocklington paid the cash-strapped Racers a rumored $850,000, but apparently the actual number is hovering around $700,000. Still, ungodly money for that time period. After years of mediocrity, the Oilers thrived on Gretzky's arrival. This teenage phenom would score 43 goals and 61 assists for 104 points for the Oilers, and add that to the 6 points he scored in the 8 games he played in Indianapolis. He had 110 points on the season. Remarkable! And other forwards, Blair McDonald, Brett Callaghan, Ron Chipperfield, Bill Flett, Dennis Sopchak, and Stan Weir all made up a great core of talent. Also with tough guys Dave Semenko and Dave Hunter, as defensemen Schmier, Micheletti, Hamilton, and Langevin were a tight core, and in net Dave Dryden garnered 41 wins. The Oilers finished with 98 points, the best record in the WHA, and their best season in their history, finally emerging out of mediocrity. They made it all the way to the AFCO Cup final, but would lose to a veteran Winnipeg Jets team. However, the WHA ceased operations in 1979, but a merger was announced, where 4 out of the 6 remaining franchises were joining the NHL, as the league will expand from 17 to 21 teams. Joining the league will be the Hartford Whalers, formerly the New England Whalers, the Quebec Nordiques, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Edmonton Oilers. But of course, the big question was, can the Oilers protect Gretzky's contract and avoid losing him? His contract was actually structured differently than most players. He was under what was called a personal services contract that was structured together by owner Peter Pocklington. It took a lot of negotiating, but eventually a deal was made where the Oilers would have to take the last pick of each round of the 1979 NHL entry draft. But either way, Gretzky was going to the NHL at 18 years old. His 46 goals, 64 assists, 110 points in his first pro season was third best in the WHA. He was the league Rookie of the Year, played in the All-Star game along his idol Gordie Howe, and was named a second-team All-Star. However, some are saying he's not strong enough for the NHL. Sure hope this kid is worth the trouble. However, they would lose Paul Schmier, Dave Langevin, and Stan Weir, as their defense was pretty much all but 110% depleted and taken in the reclamation draft, as teams who held their NHL rights decided to take many players on these WHA teams, and they also lost Dennis Sobchuk. Ah yes, the 1979 NHL Draft. At the time, Oilers GM was Larry Gordon, and with the last pick in each round, pickings might be a little slim, but thankfully for the Oilers, this is one of the greatest draft classes in NHL history, and 21st overall, their first round pick was of course a defenseman, which they sorely needed, Kevin Lowe, a star defenseman for the Quebec Remparts of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and was their team captain in their final year. He had good height, sized, he could hit pretty hard, cover the opposition closely, block shots, and in 201 games put up good offensive numbers, 42 goals and 131 assists for 173 points. He could anchor a power play, was great at starting a rush, was really good at reading an offensive break into the zone to feed a pass to. And in his final year in junior hockey, he had 26 goals and 60 assists for 86 points in 68 games. In the second round of the draft, however, the Oilers wanted to hang on to Dave Semenko, so they reacquired his rights from Minnesota, who used the pick to take future All-Star Neil Broughton. Oh, Larry Gordon, how can you screw that one out? Oh, wait, they got okay, well, they got another third round pick in the deal, so, 48th overall, who did they get? Oh, Mark Messier from the now defunct WHA club, the Cincinnati Stingers, a gritty left winger who showed a lot of heart and toughness. His time in pro hockey was very brief in the WHA. He played 5 games in Indianapolis before the team folded and played 47 games for the Stingers, had 1 goal, 10 assists for 11 points, but during 3 years in the Alberta Junior Hockey League in 128 games, had 67 goals and 106 assists for 173 points. They see potential. And Oilers got a gift from the North Stars by not protecting Paul Schmier, and they got a 4th round pick, and 69th overall, they took Vancouver, BC native Glenn Anderson out of the University of Denver, with 26 goals and 29 assists for 55 points in 41 games. He's also joining Canada's national team and will represent them at the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid. He's a tremendous natural scorer, specializing in clutch scoring, as well as a power play and even shorthanded. A significant portion of the WHA Oilers squad is coming into the NHL for the 79-80 season led by Gretzky, and they're wondering what this teen sensation could be capable of. And let's just say no teenager has taken the league by storm since the great Bobby Orr. He set an NHL record for the youngest player to reach 100 points with 51 goals, 86 assists for 137 points, tying the lead in scoring. However, since Marcel Dion had more goals, he won the Art Ross Trophy. And also, he was the youngest to win the Hart Trophy, however, as league MVP. The Oilers, as a new club, didn't have the best year. They were 11 games below 500, but with the new 1-16 seeded playoff format that went across the whole league, they were able to score the final playoff spot towards the end of the season, but they got swept out by the Philadelphia Flyers. Despite this, the Great One had a ride, and also had some help from McDonald, as well as other WHA alums Callaghan and Weir, and new rival the gritty Dave Lumley. After the season, Glen Sather was promoted to general manager, and taking over as head coach was former veteran defenseman Brian Watson. So, how would Sather fare at his first draft, you say, as general manager? Well, as the 1980 NHL entry draft was headlined by the Savard Wickenheiser sweepstakes, was also loaded with top prospect defensemen. The Oilers had the 6th overall pick, and from the Ontario Hockey League's Kitchener Rangers, they took defenseman Paul Coffey. He started with the Kingston Canadians, but ended up playing 2 seasons in Sault Ste. Marie, but joined the Kitchener Rangers in a late season trade. But in his final season in junior, he had 29 goals, 73 assists for 102 points in just 75 games. His statistics were superb, and his end-to-end play sparked comparisons to Hall of Famer Bobby Orr. He was an expert passer and a tremendous setup man. He could score some beautiful highlight reel goals, as a matter of fact, but what set him apart from many in this class was his abilities as a pure skater. Oh, but the Oilers weren't done. In the 4th round, 69th overall, from the Jokers of Helsinki, from the Finnish Elite League, Finland native Jari Kurri. He had scored 80 points in 95 games for his team over 3 seasons and has thrived internationally with a gold in the European Junior Championship, as well as participating in the 1979 World Juniors and won a silver at the 1980 World Juniors and represented Finland at the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid. European hockey was continuing to make its way to North America slowly but surely, and the Oilers were impressed by Kurri during an exhibition game in the WHA a couple years ago against the Oilers as part of the Finnish national team, and they'd been monitoring his progress ever since. Oh, but the Oilers weren't done. In round 7, they took goaltender Andy Moog from the Billings Bighorns of the WHL. Moog was a second-team All-Star in his final year with the club and was 36-19-5 over 2 seasons, finishing 23-14-1 in his final season in 1979-80. This was a great move from the Oilers, as goaltending was an issue and inconsistent for the club in their first season. Also, the Oilers didn't stop at the draft. They took a chance on a defenseman who was overlooked in the draft in 1979, Oshawa, Ontario native Charlie Huddy. Huddy played a traditional style but had an offensive touch and created good rush. And he had 2 good years in Oshawa, scoring 37 goals and 56 assists for 93 points in 123 games. He played for the semi-pro team, the Houston Apollos of the CHL in 1979-80, with 14 goals, 34 assists for 48 points. Sather was indeed stockpiling tremendous talent. The Oilers got off to a rough start, however, in the 1980-81 season, while Gretzky, however, was tearing it up. The team as a whole just still didn't seem to have much going for them other than him. Watson was relieved of his head coaching duties just after 18 games. Glen Sather was back behind the bench, and the team was wishy-washy, but the good signs were there. Gretzky was still being Gretzky. Messier's game was growing. Anderson and Kurri were having excellent rookie seasons, while Coffey was also coming along very well to boot. But there were still some obstacles. The defense, despite bolstering such talent as Kevin Lowe and veteran Lee Fogelin, who had become the team captain, as well as Finnish import Risto Siltanen, they were mostly a young bunch, and the goaltending wasn't overly strong. Veterans Ron Lowe and Gary Edwards weren't cutting it. However, Eddie Mio was having some very strong outings in net. Also, Brett Callaghan was battling injuries. Star forward Blair McDonald wasn't producing at a high level, and he was traded. Also, Anderson would get injured and miss 22 games. He would eventually return, and in the final 12 games of the season, the Oilers would only lose once. Gretzky broke Orr's assist record of 102 with 109 and smashed Phil Esposito's single-season points record of 152 with 164. The Oilers clinched the 14th spot, meaning they'd face the third-place Montreal Canadiens. The Habs were stacked with Stanley Cup experience, just 2 years removed from their dynasty of 4 in a row. And the Oilers decided to go with Andy Moog in net. He only had 7 games experience. Yeah, no chance in hell. Well, so we thought. The Oilers pulled off one of the biggest upsets in playoff history, sweeping the Habs, and not only just sweeping them, dominating them in 3 straight in a best-of-5 series. And then they took on the defending Stanley Cup champion New York Islanders, and they took them to the limit before losing in 6 games, as the Islanders would indeed win their 2nd straight cup that year. But this playoff run would be where the Oilers would make the world take notice of who they are, and that they're not just a one-player team. So what does the 1981 draft hold, we wonder? Well, how about the first goaltender to go in the first round since 1975? Grant Fuhr of the Victoria Cougars, who is dominant in his position and is taken 8th overall by Edmonton. Fuhr had amassed an incredible 78 wins, 21 losses, and just 1 tie, and a 2.96 goals against average, a 910 save percentage, 7 shutouts. And remember how I said Andy Moog was a second-team All-Star in the WHL in 1980? Well, that's because Fuhr was the first-team All-Star that year and did so again, obviously, in 1981. He also led his team to a dominant year with a 48-9-1 record, 2.78 goals against average, 908 save percentage, 4 shutouts, and the WHL championship and an appearance in the Memorial Cup. The Oilers had the best young crop of talent in the entire league, bar none, going into the 1981-82 season. They looked like they were going to turn the NHL on its ear, and they did just that. Let's see. Grant Fuhr had an incredible rookie season, winning 28 games. Their defense had matured a great deal, as well Huddy had joined the team full-time in his first official season. Lowe, Siltanen, and Fogelin looked pretty good. Paul Coffey was putting up some amazing numbers and had become an all-star. Mark Messier also had become one by reaching 50 goals. Glenn Anderson over 100 points. Jari Kurri was working along Gretzky, and oh yes, Gretzky. Let's see, an NHL record, 92 goals. The previous record was 76, beating his own assist record of 109 with 120, totaling 212 points, beating his own record of 164. Oh, let's not forget the 50 goals in 39 games, smashing the record of 50 and 50, shared by the great Rocket Richard, and also the year before from Mike Bossy of the New York Islanders. The Oilers finished 48, 17, and 15, 111 points, second best record in the NHL, behind the two-time defending Cup champion Islanders, and people were already excited at the thought of an Oilers versus Isles Stanley Cup final. All the Oilers have to do in the first round is beat an LA Kings team that finished 48 points behind them. Oh boy, Game 1 upset. Okay, no big deal. That happens all the time. Gretzky was in overtime in Game 2. Game 3, the Oilers took a 5-0 lead after 2 periods, and this is going to be a cinch. Oh, wait, that's right. Yeah, they blow it now, what is known as the Miracle in Manchester, losing 6-5 in overtime. They lose the series in the best-of-5 series in 5 games. And, yep, after a year of committing one of the biggest playoff upsets, they find themselves the victim of one. The critics come out flying, calling out the Oilers for their immaturity and cockiness, even saying Sather is just as bad as his players in that regard. Renowned hockey historian Stan Fischler, I don't know, and Toronto-based journalist Dick Beddoes both target Gretzky specifically and quite often. Fischler, with his New York bias, is pretty much the definition of blissful ignorance, while Beddoes said Gretzky couldn't even cut it on the fourth line of an original 6-era team. Oh, Beddoes was friends with Harold Ballard. What does that tell you? Enough said. Anyway, Sather did decide that they need more depth on their forward core, and on August 19, 1982, they parted ways with defenseman Risto Silted into the Whalers for gritty, pesky scoring forward Kenny the Rat Linseman. A former first-round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers, never played a game with the Whalers as he was only traded earlier that day. But in 4 seasons with the Flyers, he was the ultimate pest of a forward who could score dirty goals, wasn't afraid to get into those dirty areas, and could throw up an elbow or two and cause some rough stuff. But more importantly, he could also rack up points and could get under the skin of the opposition. In 4 seasons, he had 68 goals, 175 assists for 243 points, was a tremendous plus 56, and did so in 240 games. Also, above all, he was a playoff guy. 53 points in 41 playoff games, including being a big help to the Flyers' run to the Stanley Cup Finals in 1980. He's also coming off a career-high 92-point season on top of that. So now here we go. The Oilers of 1982-83, you ask? Well, let's see. Again, they finished with another excellent season, 106 points, tied for the second-best record in the league. Wayne Gretzky, 196 points, beating his own assist record, again with 125. They tied an NHL record share with the 1970-71 Bruins, however, with 4 players reaching 100 points, as Gretzky, Messier, Kurri, and Anderson all reached the mark, and Paul Coffey was almost there as well. Ken Linseman added 33 goals to the team, and they set an NHL record with 424 goals in a single season. The defense, despite having an offensive mindset, were all coming together. Huddy had 57 points, and tied Gretzky for the NHL lead in plus-minus, and Kevin Lowe continues to shine as well. In net, Grant Fuhr struggled a little bit, however, and Andy Moog became the #1 goaltender this season. The Oilers seem to have learned their lesson from their playoff disaster the year prior, because they dominated the Campbell Conference. They went 11-1, ruling over Winnipeg, Calgary, and Chicago, and they had made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. But standing in their way, yes indeed, the 3-time defending Stanley Cup champion New York Islanders. There are some who had written off the Islanders at this point as too old, too tired, and they didn't make the 100-point mark in the regular season this year. They even lost their division title in the regular season, and the young, fast Oilers will exhaust them. I cover this 1982-83 Islanders team on this channel. If you want a companion piece for this video, the links are in the description and in the pinned comment. But it didn't happen. The Oilers were absolutely humiliated and swept in 4 straight, outscored 17-6 as the Isles win their 4th straight cup. Wayne Gretzky had 4 assists but no goals and was a -3. Even worse, Anderson, Messier, Kurri, and Coffey all combined for 5 goals and 2 assists for just 7 points between them, and were a combined -12. Coffey alone was a -5. Linseman to boot was pointless. Isles star goalie Billy Smith got the well credit he deserved for keeping these guys at bay, but in this case Gretzky was the victim of tight checking as well from the likes of Brent Sutter and the Islanders' defensive prowess as a whole. And again, the critics came out. They have no class. They need to grow up. Fischler popped up again by saying this team will never win a cup. They were called out for non-existent checking and that Coffey doesn't play actual defense. None of them do, apparently. They have average goalies as well, according to some, and oh yes, they just can't win on talent alone. Well, actually, that last quote may have a point. The story that Wayne Gretzky has told more than once, that he and Kevin Lowe were walking by the Isles locker room to leave the arena after the series ended, and rather than seeing them celebrate, they were exhausted and icing themselves down. Gretzky saw that's what they needed to win: determination and grit and extra passion and heart. This is where our story truly begins. We now start looking at the actual season itself and what led up to it. And of course we start with the 1983 NHL entry draft, another top-notch class, as the top 10 featured 3 future Hall of Famers: LaFontaine, Yzerman, and Neely. And one should be a Hall of Famer in Tom Barrasso, always maintain that. 2 men who had great careers, such as Russ Cordell and John McClain, and a future All-Star in Sylvain Turgeon. The Oilers, however, due to being so good in the season, picked 19th in their first round pick, Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds defenseman Jeff "Here Comes the Boom" Beekman. A tough, polarizing 6'5" defender, he would go on to play 284 games for the Oilers, and over 800 in his whole NHL career, which was mostly spent with the Rangers. He walked away with a few Stanley Cup rings, 1,890 penalty minutes, and taken 80th overall in the 4th round, would be an impact player in Edmonton for years to come. Another pest by the name of Esa Tikkanen, a Finnish import who is as sneaky as they come. He go on to play 522 games for the Oilers and 877 in his NHL career, which was sadly hampered by injuries much later on. But he would be a constant Selke Trophy candidate throughout his career as the best defensive forward in the league and was a runner-up 3 times. He won himself some Stanley Cups, was a great playoff performer, and had shorter stints with the Rangers, Blues, Devils, Canucks, Capitals, and Panthers. They didn't have a 5th round pick, but LA used it to take Gary Galley, and by picking Don Barber, they missed a chance to take Rick Tocchet, who was taken right after. Other than Tikkanen and Beekman, 10th round pick John Miner would be the only other pick in this class to play any games for the Oilers, totaling 14, whereas Don Barber would play 115 games split between the Stars, Jets, Nordiques, and Sharks. Also, neither Tikkanen or Beekman would see action this season. The Oilers didn't really make any trades in the offseason, a move that many question had. Obviously, head coach Glen Sather knew, and so did this team, that big changes did need to be made amongst themselves as a team. Sure, they were dominant, and they were probably the most talented group of guys in the NHL, but indeed, talent doesn't always win you championships. It takes that extra little determination, a little added grit, a hard work ethic that needs to go beyond what you do in the regular season. There was a big change. Lee Fogelin, who was well respected by his teammates as a captain, handed over the C to the man himself, Wayne Gretzky, feeling he truly is the leader of this team and will no doubt take this role seriously. For the Oilers, it's about taking another step and growing, and they can take it head on. They are more than ready to try. They have the most dominant player in the game, but all records are starting to mean very little to Wayne if he can't get this team to the top. He has the right people around him: the gritty yet stylish Mark Messier, the playmaking of Jari Kurri, Glenn Anderson, a threat on the power play, penalty kill, or even strength. The highlight reel known as all-star defenseman Paul Coffey. Also, Ken Linseman can still lend substance to the team, while Coffey's fellow defenders, Lowe and Huddy, will also be key in going forward. The Oilers also have very underrated elements to them too, like right winger Pat Hughes, who is good for 20 or so goals a year and is also quite tough in his own regard. Same with Dave Hunter, part of the infamous Hunter brother family that plays that hard-nosed style. They now also have Jets former star Willie Lindstrom, who joined the team last season, as well as Yaroslav Huzar, and fan favorites Dave Lumley and Dave Semenko are present and accounted for. On the defensive side of things, Canadian national team star Randy Gregg, after a couple years in Japan, fit in well with the Oilers starting last season. Also, they had tough Don Jackson, and of course veteran Lee Fogelin, who still plays that traditional style and does it well. But the biggest question was goaltending. I mean, they did have a formidable duo, obviously, although, again, Grant Fuhr had only had a so-so year last season, while Andy Moog really shined in his first full season as a starting goaltender. But Sather seems to have faith in both of them. They have a tremendous power play, a decent penalty kill. This 1983-84 Oilers team just needs to stay focused and be a little more determined. And now it's time for opening night. October 5th, 1983, a sold-out crowd at Northlands Coliseum is amped up for another season of watching this exciting bunch and hoping they can reach the top, as their very first obstacle is a determined Leafs squad. The Leafs actually took a 2-0 lead into the first intermission, but 3 goals from Rolston, Anderson, and Hunter all scored in the second, gave them a 3-2 lead after 2. Gretzky scored a short-handed marker, and Kevin Lowe, not known for goals, later scored in the game winner, 5-4. Great win to open the season. Moog gets the start as the Oilers take the short journey to Winnipeg to face their division rivals Dale Hawerchuk and the Jets. It's an absolute shootout, back and forth action, 1-0 Jets, 2-1 Oilers, 3-2 Jets. It was 3-3, and that's just after one period. The Oilers took their first lead, 4-3 in the second, and Gretzky scored another shorthanded goal, and the Oilers took a 6-4 lead shortly after, and wouldn't relinquish it with a crazy 8-6 win. Gretzky on this night had 2 goals and a helper, and Lee Fogolin, again not known for his offense either, had a monster day with 3 assists, and Jari Kurri was providing his great setup abilities with 4 assists on that night, while Messier and Lowe also played very well, and Moog, who faced 40 shots, stopped 34 of them. The Oilers continued to roll fast and crazy. Next up was a very competitive game from a very good Minnesota North Stars team, headed up by the likes of Dino Ciccarelli, Brian Bellows, and Neil Broughton, also a great young group of talent. The Oilers let a 2-goal lead slip, and they went to overtime. But it's down that famous combo Gretzky to Kurri, the latter scoring the OT winner to give the Oilers a 4-3 win. Gretzky with a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. Grant Fuhr was bombarded, but was sensational, stopping 43 shots out of 46. Following that, they decimated rookie Steve Yzerman and the Detroit Red Wings 8-3. Gretzky was brilliant. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Dave Hunter, who had been off to a great start this season, had a 3-point night with a goal and 2 helpers, and so did Kurri. And it's a home-and-home series with, no pun intended, heated rivals, Calgary. In a game that saw over 100 combined penalty minutes, it was tightly contested, though the Oilers never trailed. Coffey had 2 big assists, while Gretzky and Kurri had a goal and an assist each. Fuhr was again marvelous, 38 saves on 41 shots. Linseman got the game winner. The next game, this time in Edmonton, still had some tension, with over 70 penalty minutes, but this time it was pretty one-sided as Moog was a wall, 36 saves just allowing 1 goal, and Gretzky stays hot with another 3-point night. Anderson, Kurri, and Messier each have 2. The Oilers take it 5-1 and start the season with 6 straight wins. Well, actually, make that 7 in a row. They took it to their division rivals, the Vancouver Canucks, 10-7. Oh my goodness. The Oilers did trail, however, 4-1 after the first period, and even 6-2 at one point, which finished Grant Fuhr's night. Well, they came alive with 7 goals in the third period and won it. Oh man, these spite division battles this era were utterly nuts. What a game, however, for many of the big guns. Anderson with 2 goals and an assist. Semenko did the same, which was rare for him. Coffey and Linseman each with a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. Messier with 3 assists. Gretzky with 2 goals. What a game. However, all good things must come to an end, as the Oilers' 7-game win streak is halted by another division rival, the Los Angeles Kings, who pull off a monster upset 7-2. Thanks for a career night for All-Star Bernie Nichols, 4 goals and 2 assists for 6 points. While the Kings' backup Mike Blake shocked the high-powered club with 36 saves. Losses like this, however, teach you, as great as you can be, you can't get comfortable. They were also a little too loose against the Vancouver Canucks and trailed 5-3 going into the third period. However, goals by Rulson and Anderson tied it. They had to settle for a 5-5 tie. Gretzky had 3 assists while Anderson had 2 goals. And what the hell? The Leafs? The Leafs beat them 8-3. The Leafs in 1983 beat them 8-3. Wow. Anderson had a really bad night as his hot streak was halted and it was a -5. Ouch. But to be fair, all the big guns were not firing on any cylinders in this one. The Oilers, however, rebounded with a 3-1 win over a sluggish Montreal Canadiens squad at the famous Forum. Anderson also makes up for the Toronto loss with a goal and a helper, while Linseman does the same. They end the month with a big 5-4 win over a red-hot New York Rangers club in an exciting seesaw battle as Pat Conacher plays his first game as an Oiler against his former team, no less, and gets 2 assists. Pat Hughes is an unexpected hero as well with 2 goals, including the overtime winner. Fuhr was awesome in net, facing immense pressure once again, stopping 34 of 38 shots. The Oilers start the season very well. What can you say? They fired right out of the gate with those 7 straight wins, and they didn't let a 3-game winless streak, including an embarrassing loss to Toronto, deter them. They rebounded with 2 big wins over the Habs and Rangers on the road to end the month, and they are dominating the Smythe division in first place, 8 points ahead of their nearest rivals, the Flames and the Canucks. Like I said, all Sather has to do is keep them focused, and he's doing just that, and it's paying off very well right from the start. Gretzky was making it look so easy at this point, but that didn't mean it was any less fun to watch. I mean, he's perfecting the game he loves so much. 13 goals, 14 assists for 27 points, and he already had a significant lead in the scoring race, which in the early to mid-80s we pretty much called the let's see who can finish second at Gretzky race. Averaging more than 2 points a game, he was simply sensational. In second is the man he likes to feed many of those great setups to, Jari Kurri, who had 9 each of goals and assists for 18 points, averaging 1.5 points per game. He's a man who can rack up numbers and plays the game with intelligence and hard work, and an efficient scorer with sublime passing. Tied for third is Glenn Anderson, who was the machine to begin the season and scoring those key moment goals with 9 overall and adding 5 assists for 14 points. He really is one of the most capable and reliable forwards in the entire league. while superstar defenseman Paul Coffey is playing superb hockey, tied with Anderson for third with 4 goals, 10 assists for 14 points, and making big plays happen. Also, Mark Messier looked great as his setup skills have grown immensely. Linseman also played very well. His trademark style of sneaky play with some points at it. Hughes, Lumley, and Hunter came up big in some games. And also, Tom Rulston did add a little bit of depth, while Dave Semenko was a surprising presence in many games. So yes, of course, Paul Coffey led all defensemen in scoring with his 14 points. But Charlie Huddy didn't get enough credit for the command that he had on the ice. And yes, I'm well aware he was not in the same league as Coffey's greatness, but Huddy was great at leading a power play as well and taking control of a rush and also causing turnovers in the neutral zone. And he led the team all month with a huge +9. Kevin Lowe looked solid for the most part while providing some physicality. Randy Gregg was also tremendous at setting up rushes, while veterans Lee Fogelin as well as Don Jackson were also showing some good physical presence. The goaltending for the Oilers, which along with their defense, has faced a lot of criticisms, but by these numbers you might see why. Grant Fuhr's 3.88 goals against average is not great, but considering the era it's in, it's nowhere near as bad as it would be considered today. And the fact is, when you face as many shots as he does in a given game, you can pretty much see why it happens. But he still won 5 games and didn't lose a single one. Whereas Moog has some couple brutal outings here. His goals against average is a pretty bad 4.76, but he still went 4-2. These guys, despite the goals they let in, keep their team in it so the big stars can rack up those large numbers. And wow, look at this. Talk about starting the month right. A huge 11-3 win to open November against the Washington Capitals. And this isn't the lowly Caps club of a couple years prior. No, sir. This is a team that had an amazing defense with last year's Norris Trophy winner Rod Langway, hard-hitting sophomore Scott Stevens, and a new acquisition, former King Star blue liner Larry Murphy. I mean, a Washington team getting spanked like this so bad, you'd think Daniel Snyder owned them too. Oh boy. Gretzky, as usual, was great as his nickname says he is. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Paul Coffey put on a show, 2 goals and a helper. Don Jackson, of all people, with 2 goals. Also Conacher, Messier, Kurri, Hunter, and Hughes, all with 2 points. Fuhr also played very well, stopping 30 shots. The Oilers just kept sliding through the competition, bringing their win streak to 8 games. First, a 7-3 win over the lowly Penguins. Gretzky had 3 helpers. Kurri had a goal and 2 assists for 3 points himself. And then they went on a little road trip. The first stop was Winnipeg. They downed the Jets 8-5. Either they trailed 3-0 early in the second period. It just goes to show you can't simply protect your lead against the Oilers. You need to build further on it if you want to win against them. Oh, yes, and there's this statistic. Wayne Gretzky, 7 points! Yes, 7 points! 4 goals, giving him his 19th career hat trick already, and adding 3 assists. And yeah, and even the Jets fans in attendance gave their hated adversary a standing ovation, and it ties a single-game career high, which he set on February 18, 1981, in Winnipeg. Jari Kurri also helped make this big game happen with 3 assists, all on Wayne's goals. And then it was off to La Belle Province as they visit a very talented Quebec Nordiques club led by Michel Goulet and the Stastny Trio. And they were able to come away with a 7-4 win. Paul Coffey was an absolute force out there. He was leading the way on every offensive rush, it seemed, and it showed with 3 assists, an incredible +6. Kurri stayed hot with 2 goals and a helper. Huddy had a couple of assists and was a +5. They then got the better of the Capitals again, 7-3 this time. Well, 7 is less than 11, but it's still pretty humiliating. Kurri is a machine. 2 goals and an assist again for 3 points. Gretzky has 4 points with a goal and 3 assists. Fuhr also stops 37 shots. Then it was off to visit Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, a 7-3 win over a hard-working yet still struggling Red Wings squad, who took a 2-0 lead just over 2 minutes in as Moog's return started to be a little bit shaky. But Gretzky has another huge 5 points with 3 goals and 2 assists for his 20th career hat trick. And again, we're just in his 5th season for crying out loud. Messier also plays a beauty with a goal and 2 assists for 3 points, 8 straight wins on the streak that started at the end of October. Then it was a trip to Chicago, however, that ended this hot streak as the Oilers would lose 5-3. Fuhr suffering his first loss of the year. Messier and Anderson both had a rough night. Still, they go for 1-0 on this road trip. They return home and take on a tremendous Buffalo Sabres team and dominate them 7-0. Moog gets his first shutout of the year, an amazing 29-save performance. Gretzky had 3 more assists, as did Mark Messier, again, really making some tremendous setups, while Glenn Anderson also had a huge 3-point night with a goal and 2 assists, while Kurri had 2 goals and assists yet again. Oh my goodness. Randy Gregg had 2 goals as he'd been playing excellently lately, and it was a monster +5, as was Don Jackson. Then on November 19th came a rather infamous game for a few different reasons. As the 17-0 pathetic New Jersey Devils came to town, it was literally going to be a glorified practice for the Oilers. Well, actually, the Devils took a 2-0 lead, and then, ay caramba, 13-4 Oilers. I mean, I've seen punching bags in Rocky films take less of a beating. Oh my god, this seriously made the real Devil ask God for mercy. Oh man, however, this shellacking did have a silver lining. Gretzky was utterly incredible here. A career high, 8 points in 1 game. Darryl Sittler still held the NHL record and still does this very day with a record 10. But outside of that, Gretzky now joined Rocket Richard, Bert Olmsted, Tom Bladden, Anton Stastny, and Isles rival Brian Trottier to the list that have reached 8 points. Also, Jari Kurri, what an amazing night! 5 goals and an assist for 6 points, giving him the 6th hat-trick of his career as well. While Willie Lindstrom got his first hat-trick of his career, Lowe had 3 assists and was a huge +5. And even crazier, Mark Messier was out of the lineup on this night. Now, you'd think Gretzky would be proud of this moment, and I'm sure he was. Maybe he had a funny way of showing it, because after this big win, he said to this New Jersey Devils organization, they are putting on a Mickey Mouse operation on ice. They better start getting some better personnel. It's ruining hockey. Gretzky would later state in his 1990 autobiography that the motivation for his comments were due to feeling bad for the team's goaltenders, one of whom was a former teammate of his, Ron Lowe, and the other was one of the most beloved figures in all of hockey at the time, former All-Star for the Islanders, Chico Resch. He would also later state that he was trying to defer the blame off of them, and it backfired, as Gretzky was heavily criticized for his comments by some, but others also saw it as truth. Anyway, the Oilers keep moving forward and don't get anything easy, however, from the Winnipeg Jets. 2 Paul Coffey goals, however, put them up 2-0, but the Jets tied it and actually led 4-3 at the end of the first. But power play markers from Anderson and Gretzky made it 5-4 at the end of 2. Coffey assisting on both goals, getting 4 points on the night. But in the third, the Jets take a 6-5 lead, but 2 goals from Dave Hunter win it for the Oilers, 7-6. They followed that up with a 7-3 win over the lowly yet somewhat talented Kings. Ken Linseman returned to the lineup after missing a few games and notched 2 assists, while 15 different players at least notched a point. Fuhr was awesome, stopping 34 shots. Then a surprising turn of events on a road trip to Minnesota, who do have a talented club, very much so, as goaltenders Gilles Meloche and Grant Fuhr put on a great show, with Fuhr making 41 saves. The Oilers trailed 2-1 in the third until Dave Lumley tied it. However, overtime solved nothing. They settled for a 2-2 tie, but their 5-game unbeaten streak, however, came to a halt in a loss to the St. Louis Blues as the Oilers were playing catch-up the whole game. The Blues took a 2-0 lead barely 6 minutes in. However, Gretzky had 5 assists, and he extends his point streak to 25 games, as yes, he indeed has scored in every single game so far this year, either a goal or assist or many more of each. The record is 30, held by himself, set a year before when he beat Guy Lafleur's record of 28. Also, Jari Kurri extends his point streak to 16 games. Don Jackson had 2 goals in the outing. Mark Messier had 2 each for 4 points. They then hosted a Philadelphia Flyers squad led by greats Bobby Clarke and Darryl Sittler, as well as All-Stars Brian Propp and Mark Howe. Charlie Huddy returns to the lineup after missing some games, and the Flyers are one of the better teams in the league, and they nearly get it done against the Oilers, as Clarke scored with 3:15 to play to give the Flyers a 3-2 lead. However, Paul Coffey sent the Northlands Coliseum into a frenzy with 49 seconds to play, was set up by Messier and Kurri to tie it. Overtime solved nothing in the game to end the month, ended with a tie, 3-3. Kurri assisted on all 3 goals, and Fuhr is again facing a barrage, stopping 40 shots, while the Oilers were often stymied by Bob Froese. The Oilers may have ended the month a little wonky, but the fact is they went 10-2-2 and are just incredibly dominating the Smythe division with 41 points, 17 ahead of both Calgary and Vancouver in their own battle for second place. And many Oiler naysayers at this point, well, they actually point out their weak division. And while as a whole it may have been, one reason for that is, well, A, the Oilers' dominance, and another is that teams like Calgary and Winnipeg were actually not really living up to expectations. But either way, even in a division such as this, their performance is incredible. And they still beat teams from other divisions around the league, a big one over Washington coming to mind. Wayne Gretzky, 17 goals, 32 assists, 49 points. That is 3.5 points a game this month. Not to mention he's closing in on his own personal point streak record of 30, as he sits at 26 games. Oh my goodness. All games so far this season with a point. Yeah, just give him the Art Ross Trophy now and save everyone else the trouble. I mean, he had 7 points in one game, 8 in another. Oh, but Jari Kurri, however, we need to talk about him. The Finnish sensation had one of the best months of hockey in his career thus far. 16 goals, 20 assists, 36 points. He himself on a big point streak of 17 games, and in the month of November, averaging just above 2.5 points a game. And the engine that could and will, Mark Messier, battling for the puck and making things happen with it. 7 goals, 15 assists for 22 points, close to 2 points a game. Third in team scoring this month and having an incredible season so far, as his passing and goal setups have reached a whole new elite level. Anderson had another excellent month, while Linseman missed several games, but was on his game while healthy. Yaroslav Puzar was the unexpected force this month, as he played some amazing hockey, as did Willie Lindstrom. Pat Hughes also came up big, and Dave Lumley was there when he was needed. And speaking of Daves, Dave Hunter also produced very, very well, while Tom Rulston had his fair share of moments. Wayne Gretzky's astronomical plus 32, to no surprise of anyone, led the team all month. As you have to say, even though he's not really had a bad month, this is definitely one of the best of his entire career. Paul Coffey continues to make his case for the Norris Trophy, known with 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points, leading all defensemen. However, picking up the slack in Charlie Huddy's absence was Randy Gregg. What a month he had. Pretty much stepping up in what is normally Huddy's role and adding a scoring touch as well, and his plus 20 was only second to Gretzky. Kevin Lowe was also excellent all month, as he was hustling even harder than usual with Huddy gone, and Don Jackson was superb. This was perhaps the best the Oilers defense had been in their history. Jackson was ferocious out there, and himself was a plus 18, while Fogelin, again, proves have tremendous leadership and still out there blocking shots. The goaltending was still rock solid. Fuhr went 7-1-2 and faced more than 30 shots many times and maintained a respectable 3.40 goals against average while enabling the Oilers' offensive onslaught. Andy Moog improved his numbers and was a good 3-1 and did get his first shutout of the year, but still not playing as good as he did the year prior, but still his goals against average is of 4. The Oilers began the month right with a dominant 7-3 win over the LA Kings. Glenn Anderson notches his 6th career hat-trick, playing an outstanding game, while Gretzky had 3 assists, as did Ken Linseman. Kevin Lowe had 2 helpers, while Kurri continued his hot streak with a goal and an assist. Fuhr was also fantastic with 32 saves. Then came their biggest test of the year so far, a rematch from the Stanley Cup final, as the Oilers are set to host the team that humiliated them in said final, the 4-time defending Stanley Cup champion, New York Islanders. Fuhr gets the start as Billy Smith sits this one out, but all-star Rolly Melanson is in net for the Isles. So, again, it's the 2 goalies who didn't see much action in the big dance squaring off. The Isles took a 2-0 lead just 1:26 into the game thanks to 2 Wayne Sather goals, just 38 seconds apart. However, a power play goal by Paul Coffey late in the first and a Lee Fogelin goal early in the second tied the game. They were doing a good job of containing superstar winger Mike Bossy and held Brian Trottier to just 1 shot on goal. However, John Stanley's late second period goal proved to be the game winner en route to a 4-2 win for the Isles. The Oilers suffered their first loss of the year at home, and once again the critics come out pointing out how once again the Oilers were outclassed by a classier club, and how they don't have the iron will to be champions, simply cruising on their talent. Also, Kurri's point streak ends after 18 games. The Oilers made a trade on December 6th, sending Tom Rulston, who'd been playing pretty well up to that point, to a dreadful Pittsburgh Penguins squad for winger Kevin McClellan, who could play pretty good defense as well, and a 6th-round draft pick. McClellan was a tough guy who was seldom used by the Pens, and the Whalers, who drafted him in 1980, gave up his rights. In the course of 72 games with the Pens over 3 seasons, he had 20 points and 139 penalty minutes. This season, in 24 games, he had 6 points, 62 penalty minutes, but was pretty good on his minor league assignment with the Baltimore Skipjacks of the AHL, and was ready to come back to the pros. Up next was a home-and-home series with the Vancouver Canucks, and the first game was insane. The Oilers actually found themselves down 4-0, as the usually ruckus Northlands crowd was silenced. Fuhr was playing brutally, as he had been facing many shots this game. Messier broke the shutout late in the second, as Gretzky assisted on a goal, keeping his streak going. In the third period, Willie Lindstrom scored his first of 2 goals. Linseman added one in the middle of those, and the game was tied 4-4. But just 26 seconds after the equalizer, Anderson scores the game winner. The Oilers triumphed in a huge 5-4 comeback win. Kurri had 3 assists. The next game was a very tense and heated confrontation, and while Pat Hughes struck for 54 seconds into the game, the Canucks were leading 2-1 in the second, but 1:11 later, Coffey to Gretzky to Kurri on the power play. They tied it, and the Canucks led 3-2 after 2. As young goalie from Hamilton, Ontario, Frank Caprice, held the Oilers off the score sheet in that period, and our heroes would lose, as Gretzky does tie, however, his own NHL record, a 30-game point streak. Oh boy, but here we go again. This time, the Oilers are taking a trip to Long Island to face the Islanders, and the media is on them like white on rice. It's happening once again. This time, they couldn't contain Mike Bossy, or anyone else for that matter, as Bossy had 3 points, but Butch Goring lit it up on Grant Fuhr with 4 goals, and Billy Smith was in net, frustrating the Oilers with 35 saves. Islanders win 8-5. Coffey is a -6 in the loss. The Oilers have only won 2 of their last 8 games, and the media is taking notice, and some of them are going as far to say their weaknesses are being exposed at long last, especially as many once again point out the Islanders have outclassed them, and the Oilers just can't beat them. The only bright spot in this loss is Gretzky breaking his own point streak record, making it to 31 games. And in those 31 games, he has 31 goals, 54 assists, 85 points, almost 2 3/4 points a game. And now many are believing he'll break his own single-season points record of 212. But the Oilers need to wake up out of this little funk they're in, and indeed they do. They start shaking off the loss on the island, taking the train ride to the Big Apple and beating this very good Rangers team 9-4. Gretzky stays hot, 3 goals, another hat trick, 2 assists for 5 points. Anderson plays a huge game with 2 each on goals and assists for 4 points. Kurri not just 3 assists, Moog gets a workout, stopping an amazing 46 shots. And then they went back home and destroyed the Quebec Nordiques 8-1. And the ridiculousness of number 99 continues. He had a goal and 5 assists for 6 points. Messier played a huge game with 2 goals and assists for 3 points, while Moog, 34 saves on 35 shots, again playing outstanding. Then it was a home-and-home series with the Jets, first on the road. Gretzky has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. Coffey, Hughes, Hunter, Messier, and new acquisition McClellan each have 2 points. Moog stops 39 shots. And then back home, it's a 7-4 win over the Jets. Gretzky again, another hat trick, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. Kurri had 2 each for 4 points. The Oilers shake off the rough start to the month. The win streak ended, but the unbeaten streak continues, however, as it makes it to 5 games as the Battle of Alberta commenced once again. The game was tied 4-4 going into the third period, and Kurri was set up by Gretzky and Coffey for the go-ahead goal, and it looked like Edmonton was going to get their 5th straight win until Flames forward Dan Quinn scored with 51 seconds to play, and the Oilers had to settle for a 5-5 tie. Gretzky, Kurri, Messier, Coffey, and Linseman each had 2 points. But their winning ways would recommence as they beat Calgary in front of their rabid fans, despite trailing 2-0 early, and they win 6-3. Grant Fuhr returns in net, while Gretzky and Kurri are both on fire with a goal and 2 assists each for 3 points. And then it's off to Vancouver for a 4-2 win. Kurri has 2 goals in the win. Moog is making very exciting saves, 32 of them as a matter of fact. And to cap off the calendar year of 1983, the Oilers host the mighty Big Bad Bruins led by Ray Bourque, Rick Middleton, and Barry Peterson, who are all having another great year, and Grant Fuhr was the star of the game as he put on a clinic. 36 saves for his first shutout of the year, and all it took was goals from Hughes, shorthanded, and Coffey on the power play to get the win. A great way to end the month, a win over a powerful club, and on an 8-game unbeaten streak heading into the new year. Despite a rough start to the month, however, a sluggish period since late November, the Oilers went 9-3-1 in December, now an astounding 28-7-4, dominating their division and the conference, the entire league, with 60 points. 26 points ahead of both Vancouver and Calgary. No teams in the Smite division could find any consistency so far this season, and the Oilers further reap the benefits. Hey look, Wayne Gretzky leads his team in scoring again, 12 goals, 25 assists for 37 points in 13 games, almost 3 points a game. And breaking his own point streak record of 30 set the year before, he's still going at 39 games and not slowing down anytime soon. Jari Kurri again is a workhorse out there, tirelessly going after the puck and making oh-so-good things happen, as he has 9 goals and 14 assists for 23 points, while Paul Coffey comes in third again, dazzling wherever he is on the ice, 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points. Anderson had another really good month, as did Messier, each of them with 14 points. Ken Linseman was definitely key in many wins as well. Dave Hunter had a really good month, while Pat Hughes lent a hand, and Willie Lindstrom sporadically came up huge in big games. New addition Kevin McClellan is finding his groove in his role with this Oilers club, whereas Pozar and Semenko actually struggled a little bit. Gretzky and Anderson tied the lead in plus-minus with +8, a far cry from Gretzky's +32, but still very good nonetheless. Yes, of course, Paul Coffey led in scoring for defensemen this month with 17 points, and again, just 2 less than the month prior. What a year he's having, though. Other than Coffey, it was former captain and the most senior player on the team, Lee Fogelin, who had the best month among the Blue Liners, again showing he is key to this club's success, and nothing gets forgotten when talking about this team in hindsight. Don Jackson also deserves some kudos as he played well in many games. Lowe and Huddy were also quite good, and Randy Gregg again, grossly underrated, was a perfect fit for this Oilers strategy. Grant Fuhr still looked pretty good despite a slight increase in his goals against average, going up to 3.5, but he still went 4-2-0, had a pretty good month overall, making some big saves. Got his first shutout of the year in an effort performance over Boston. But Andy Moog had his best month of the year so far, bringing his goals against average to the best they've been all year at 3.40. And he was finally holding his own when it came to being bombarded with 30-plus shots a game, it seemed, and went 5-1-1, playing more like he did last season. To begin the new year of 1984 in January, it was another Battle of Alberta showdown, and what a game it was! The Oilers led 6-1 after one period, and the Flames tried to make a game of it, but Edmonton would come out on top 9-6. Gretzky keeps on going with a goal and 3 assists for 4 points. Coffey and Kurri each had a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. Messier had 2 goals, and McClellan, Lowe, Linseman, and Hunter all had 2 points. After that, the unbeaten streak is extended to 10 games with... Holy Christmas! The Oilers and North Stars combined for 20 goals and a 12-8 win for the Oilers. It's a modern record, as the original record was set all the way back in 1920 in a 21-goal game between the Toronto St. Pats and the Montreal Canadiens. Utterly psychotic, but welcome to 80s hockey. More goals than a Tony Robbins seminar, and yes, Gretzky again reaches his career best with 8 points. 4 goals, 4 assists. But how about Mark Messier on this night? 6 assists! I mentioned how his goal setup skills, which were already really good, have excelled to a whole new level this year, and yeah, this pretty much proves it. He was just one shy of tying, easy for me to say, tying an NHL record set by Billy Taylor Sr. in 1947 and Wayne Gretzky back in 1980. And of course, the rest of the big guns were firing it up. Jari Kurri with a hat trick and an assist for 4 points, Anderson and Coffey each with 3 points, and Huddy joined in on that club as well on this day with 3 assists. The roll just keeps on going, however. Jari Kurri, however, is dealing with injury issues and will miss the next few games. Gretzky gets his 7th hat-trick in this year with a 5-3 win over Ron Francis and the lowly Whalers, and gets his 50th goal in just 42 games, 3 shy of the record of 50 and 39 set in 1981-82. Messier continues to roll with his setups with 2 helpers, as Coffey had the same. Moog was good in net with 28 saves. Then a 4-game road trip commences. First, it's Detroit, and a huge 7-3 dominant win. Gretzky surpasses his career low in goals set in the NHL in his first season with 51, scoring 2 goals to reach 52. He has an assist, while Messier is playing remarkable hockey as of late, adding 2 goals to this win. Coffey plays outstanding in this outing as well as a +5. Fuhr stops 29 shots. Gretzky's record point streak, however, nearly came to an end in a win over Chicago, but he notched an empty netter with just 2 seconds to play to keep it going now at 44 games. Moog plays great in net, Messier stays hot, Linseman plays a beauty, as do Lowe and Fogelin. However, a trip to Buffalo ended the Oilers' unbeaten streak at 13 games. The Sabres' defense was amazing in this outing and beat the Oilers 3-1. And now they take a trip to New Jersey for the first time since that 13-4 win and Gretzky's Mickey Mouse comments, and the crowd is hostile. Fans proudly wearing Mickey Mouse ears, holding up signs depicting Mickey as well as Gretzky as Goofy. And the Devils as a team felt they needed to prove themselves here, and to be honest, they played like it. The Oilers, however, were in control most of the way and led 5-2 after 2 periods. The Devils scored 2 goals early in the third, as the arena went nuts thinking, come back. However, it was not to be. Eddie Moog stood tall in net, but the Oilers were back on winning track instantly with a 5-4 win, but the Devils didn't make it easy. Gretzky had 3 assists, Lindstrom had 2 goals, Messier and Huddy had 1 each, while Kurri returned and scored a goal, but his injuries are now worse. He suffers a back groin injury. He'll be out at least 4 weeks. The Oilers, however, go 4-1-0 on this road trip. They then return for a win over the Vancouver Canucks, and look at that, Gretzky. Yep, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. Coffey has a goal and 2 helpers for 3 points, and then it's a home-and-home series with the Kings, and the Oilers trailed 3-0 and 5-2 during this game, but then went on a tear. Gretzky again, 5 points, by this time it's 2 goals and 3 assists. Coffey is red hot. Another goal and 2 assists, giving him 6 points in 2 games. They take it 7-5. Then it's off to La La Land, and it's a 6-3 win for the Oilers. Coffey now has 9 points in 3 games. Oh my goodness, with 3 assists in this outing, he's truly playing epic hockey. Fuhr stopped 31 shots, but Pat Hughes has the career night, 2 goals and an assist for 3 points. Also, Rick Chartaw makes his debut for the Oilers as he was a defensive role player for the Habs during their 4 Cup wins from 1976 to 79 and was picked up from the Rangers. They then face Vancouver again, this time on the road. And despite trailing 4-2, take a 6-4 win, Gretzky again is a marvel. 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. His point streak has reached 50 games. Anderson has a 3-point night with a goal and 2 helpers. And the Oilers have now won 5 in a row. Messier has missed the last few games to boot. The Devils then came to town and looked more determined than ever to beat the Oilers. The Oilers took a 3-0 lead and it looked pretty bad. Once again, it looked like it was going to be another rout. But the Devils came back and scored the tying goal from Mel Bridgman with 1:17 to play in regulation. Overtime solved nothing. The winning streak ends, but the Oilers are still unbeaten in 6, and Gretzky's point streak reaches 51 games! Well, the LA Kings come to town and actually get the better of the Oilers thanks to a big night from Bernie Nichols. They win 4-2 and hand the Oilers just their second loss all year at home. Gretzky does not play well, and neither did many of the other top guns such as Coffey, Anderson, and Huddy. And while Gretzky fired 4 shots on goal, none of them went into the net, and he didn't set anyone up. After 51 games, his point streak comes to an end. But indeed, despite that, when it takes your 52nd game of the year to not score a point, it's pretty damn impressive. But still, yeah, again, 51 games, ridiculous. And in those 51 games, 61 goals, 92 assists, 153 points, literally 3 points a game. The only one who came even close to this mark of a point streak was Mario Lemieux in 1989-90 with 46 games. The month ended with the NHL All-Star Game in New Jersey, and the Oilers led with 6 selections in the whole league. Gretzky didn't get a warm reception from the Jersey faithful, to say the least. But be that as it may, it's his 5th straight All-Star Game appearance, 1 year removed from being the game's MVP. Messier, who had been cleared from injury just recently, makes his 3rd straight appearance, while Glenn Anderson plays in his 1st. Paul Coffey plays in his 3rd straight, while Kevin Lowe plays in his 1st. Grant Fuhr plays in his 2nd midseason classic as he played in the 82 game in his rookie year. They'd, however, be on the losing end as the Campbell Conference dropped a 7-6 decision to the Whales. While Gretzky did have a goal, the other Oilers were actually held off the score sheet in this one. The Oilers are just running away even further with the Smythe division as they go 10-2-1 in January and now sit at 81 points. And despite the improvement of the Flames, the Oilers sit 32 points ahead of them and are close to clinching a very guaranteed playoff spot. Oh my goodness, this early in the season to boot. Overcoming injuries to key players, this team just isn't one to be stopped this season. Wayne Gretzky, however, had another crazy month. 19 goals, 21 assists, 40 points in just 13 games, averaging just above 3 points a game. Another 8-point night, simply unbelievable. His point streak may have come to an end, but he's basically won the scoring title already at this point, and on the verge of breaking his own record once again. His point streak, despite ending, reached a record that still stands today of 51 games. Paul Coffey is just a joy to watch at this point. 8 goals, 15 assists, 23 points, and a plus 17. Every time he stepped on the ice, it seemed something happened, and he was making big things happen. Mark Messier, despite missing the last 6 games of the month, thanks in large part to his hot streak that included that amazing 6-assist performance against the Minnesota North Stars, comes in 3rd with 6 goals, 10 assists for 16 points. Glenn Anderson again was consistent, just coming in from behind at 15 points. And Jari Kurri's absence and other players have stepped up, such as Ken Linseman, who had the best month of the season so far. Pat Hughes and Dave Hunter were both excellent in many games, and once again, Willie Lindstrom pops up unexpectedly and has just a huge game and produces when he's not even expecting it. Yaroslav Husar played very well, while Kevin McClelland is actually becoming a significant part of this lineup. Gretzky's plus 23 was best among the team, and of course that's not really a surprise. Paul Coffey led all defensemen scoring, but that's not a surprise either, and is having the best year of his career, and truly is a phenom in every sense of the word. But also big time credit has to go to Charlie Huddy, who's a plus 17 and really proving again he's a huge piece of the puzzle and also delivered offensive numbers as well. Kevin Lowe had the best month of his season so far, and providing a lot of physicality. Lee Fogelin is having one of the best seasons of his long career. Randy Gregg was perfectly fine. Don Jackson struggled a little bit, but now he's battling injury issues. And yet again, both goalies are winning games and are both making big saves, facing a barrage of shots on most nights, thanks to their offensive-minded defense. But they keep them in the games, and each goalie has only lost one game. Fuhr had won 4, Moog had won 6, but both their goals against averages aren't anything to celebrate. They're both above 4. Battle of Alberta takes center stage once again as we begin February, and the Oilers find themselves in a unique situation. Messier is again out for this game despite playing the All-Star game. Kurri is still out of action, so is Gretzky. Gretzky apparently had been nursing a sore shoulder and was going to miss some action, but thankfully not too long term. And wow, look at this, a 10-5 win, and Pat Hughes? I mean, he's been playing pretty well this season, don't get me wrong, but he's a new hero of the day with 5 goals, a career night for Hughes, getting a tremendous ovation at the end of the game. Anderson also played a huge outing with 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points. Linseman had a 4-point night with a goal and 3 assists, while Coffey himself had 3 helpers. But hey, some more good news. Mark Messier is returning for the next game. Bad news? What? Oh yeah, it would kick off the worst string of games the Oilers would play all season as they began a 5-game road trip. Yikes! A 9-2 loss to the Capitals? They dominated them earlier in the season, but the Caps just decimated them on this night. Messier has a goal in his return. Hughes scores another. Fuhr has one of the worst nights of his career, letting in all 9 goals. Hozar was particularly bad in this game as well. And then, yep, another loss to the Islanders. While the Oilers did make a comeback down 3-0 and tied the game in the third period, they drop a 5-3 loss. Hughes continues to roll with 2 assists. Hunter had a goal and a helper. And things get worse. The Oilers were actually leading the Flyers 3-1 after the first period in their game, but would fall apart and lose 4-3. Fuhr made 44 saves in the loss. Linseman had 2 assists. And then, 4-1 loss against Boston. Yeesh. Greg had the lone goal. Moog stopped 30 shots. But again, the critics are out saying how the Oilers can't beat teams that are on their level of winning. Well, I mean, it can't get any worse, I guess, right? What the f***? An 11-0 loss to Hartford in 1984? I'm sorry, I don't care if Gretzky or Kurri are gone. This is inexcusable. Everyone here was brutal. Moog and Fuhr get lit up more than an eager virgin on prom night. And God, really? 11-0. The Whalers. Oh. To top it off, they've gone 0-5-0 on this road trip. Indeed, a 5-game losing streak. And yes, 2 big stars are gone, but even Anderson and Messier were barely average at this point. And Coffey was actually quite bad during this stretch. Even some of the others, Lindstrom was playing poorly, Puzar was absolutely brutal as well, Chartrand was proving to be useless since he came to the team. However, Jari Kurri, thank God, has been cleared! And yes, Gretzky is back as well, even though he's not still fully healed apparently. Oh, holly frickin' Luya. The Oilers return home and continue their dominance over the Jets this season. A 7-4 win. Kurri hasn't lost a step after missing a month, however. 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. And Gretzky returns with a vengeance, a 4-point night with 2 each. Coffey plays much better than he has lately with 2 goals and an assist. And Huddy had 3 assists. Back in full force, it seems. It looked bad early in their next game against the Boston Bruins, falling behind 2-0 in the first period. But then Glenn Anderson and Paul Coffey shook things up. Anderson had 2 goals, Coffey had 3 assists, and a huge 5-2 win over this powerful Bruins club, avenging their previous loss to them. The big guns were firing in a 7-3 win over the pathetic Penguins. Gretzky, Anderson, Coffey, and Messier each with 3 points. Charlie Huddy was a +6 with 2 assists. Remarkable. Andy Moog made 40 saves. Man, these Penguins are awful. Hope they make a big splash to 84 draft. Anyway, moving on. A very competitive game with the St. Louis Blues, but Gretzky has 4 goals and assists for 5 points. Fuhr stops 43 shots. The Oilers win streak hits 4. And the streak continues 9-2 over the Penguins this time. And now Gretzky has 10 points in 2 games, another 4 goals, and an assist, giving him his 10th hat-trick of the year, tying an NHL record set by himself back in 1981-82. Also reaches the 70 goal mark for the 3rd straight year. Paul Coffey has just been on a whole other level during this winning streak. Another 3-point night. And Hughes again coming out of nowhere with a goal and 3 assists for 4 points. Kurri and McClellan also had 3 points, and McClellan has proven to be a steal of a deal for the Oilers. And the wins keep on coming. 5-3 over the Calgary Flames. Linseman and Greg with 2 assists. Fuhr stopping 34 shots, and then a monster 8-3 win over the Leafs. Messier gets his 6th career hat trick, his first of the year. Anderson notches 3 points in the win. And what a game against the Jets. Winnipeg took a 2-0 lead in the first, but the Oilers tied it. But it was 3-2 Jets after one. The Oilers took a 2-goal lead, however, 5-3, and the gap was close to 5-4, but Hawerchuk tied it up for the Jets with 5 seconds left in regulation, but Dave Hunter scores the OT winner, set up by Linseman, and the Oilers have now won 8 straight games. Anderson and Coffey are playing crazy good hockey, 3 points each, just on another level in this stretch. Also a credit to Rick Chartrand, whose run in Edmonton has started pretty bad, but he has produced quite well defensively, and Ken Linseman has been playing some of the best hockey of his career in this stretch. However, the month ended in a leap year battle with the Flyers, and their trouble against the team continues as the Flyers, with 4 future Hall of Famers and 2 other big All-Stars, continue their success against Edmonton with a 5-3 win. Coffey and Gretzky each had 2 assists. So the Oilers, literally to the surprise of nobody, are already in the playoffs and are actually just 1 win and a Calgary loss away from officially clinching the division for the 3rd straight year. The Oilers' February was 9-6-0. That would be their worst month of the season. And yeah, that's as bad as it would get. And spoiler, we still have a month to go. Of course, that was due to the 5-game losing streak why they had this record, and of course, that 8-game winning streak was their saving grace. Paul Coffey was the one to lead his team in scoring this month. 7 goals, 18 assists, 25 points, 15 games. That's just above 1.5 points a game. Considering how bad he played during the losing streak, it's all the more impressive when he woke up and went on that tear and has now really reached a career high in single season points with 98, beating the 96 he had the year prior. Gretzky came in second for the first time this season. He wasn't first with 24 points. Still led the team in goals with 15, however, and all the more impressive because he only played 9 games, missing 6 due to a shoulder injury. And even under those 9 games he played, he was actually pointless in one of them. Truly special. Still more than 2.5 points a game. Some feel despite missing those games, he can still break his old records, as he did reach his record-tying 10th hat-trick of the year. But the best all-around forward all month was Glenn Anderson. He was a warrior out there. 12 goals, 10 assists, 22 points. Played his heart out. What a month he had. Just upping his game to a whole other level as well. The top dogs are showing extra heart. Mark Messier, however, had a slow but not a bad month and did notch a hat-trick. Jari Kurri returned from injury, and while he played well excellently in a lot of games, it still seemed he was trying to find his footing again overall. Ken Linseman was outstanding this month, as were Hughes and Hunter again. Everyone seems to be doing something. McClellan continues to be a hidden asset. Moser and Lindstrom got it together as the month went on. Well, Lumley played pretty good, and Semenko, who had been out of action for a while, actually played pretty well in the games he played. As I said, Glenn Anderson was the best forward all month for Edmonton, and he showed it here further as he led the team with a plus 11, which was much higher than just what anyone else had in February. He's probably the only one that didn't falter completely during the losing streak either. He's always been talented, but is really showing just how good he is in a more dynamic way. And, okay, look. Chances are, if I'm covering a team on anatomy of a season that includes the first 16 years, of Paul Coffey's career, chances are he'll more often than not be leading the defensemen in scoring. Charlie Huddy and Kevin Lowe were further proving that they are key to the Oilers' all-out attack style. Even if they don't rack up Coffey's stats, they are still key in the Oilers' dominance. Randy Craig also had a really good month, while Fogelin was still reliable. Jackson missed a lot of action over, and Rick Chartrand took over, and, well, he kind of was laying in the weeds a bit. The goalies got wins, made a lot of saves, lost them as a matter of fact. Fuhr had the better record. His goals against average was abysmal, however, over 5 goals. Well, Moog, however, had one of the best months he had all year statistically with a 3.72 goals against average, but with a 3-3 record. Anyway, let's get this formality of a month known as March over with, as the Oilers do indeed clinch their 3rd straight division title with an easy 6-1 win over the Habs. Fuhr's great net, 30 saves, Gretzky and Coffey, 3 points, and indeed Coffey goes a 3rd defenseman in NHL history to reach 100 points in the season. Bobby Orr had done it 6 times, and Denny Potvin of the Islanders had reached it once. Also in this game, Glenn Anderson had 2 goals, and Messier plays another beauty. Then it was a 7-4 win over Chicago. Kurri had a hat-trick, giving him 100 points in the season, all the more impressive considering all the games he missed. Gretzky and Coffey continue to roll, as does Messier. However, thanks to superb goaltending from Glenn Hanlon, the Oilers dropped a tough 3-2 loss to the very talented New York Rangers squad. But then, oh jeez, they absolutely tuned the Canucks up in the worst way. 12-2, 15 of 18 skaters had points in this contest. Kurri, hat-trick, adding 2 assists for 5 points. Gretzky, 5 points. Messier, hat-trick for him. Anderson and Lumley, 3 points. Coffey, a +7. Huddy, +6. Even Moog got his fair share of work in with 31 saves. And man, the Oilers just executed veteran goaltender John Garrett of the Canucks into retirement pretty much. Now it's a small road trip to Quebec and a thrilling victory over a very good Nordiques team. The night belonged to Paul Coffey. The game went back and forth. A shorthanded goal by Coffey tied the game with 4:44 left. And off to overtime we went. With time winding down, 25 seconds to play, Coffey scores the OT winner, capping off a huge night with 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. But then it was off to Montreal for the Forum in a very tight-knit game between the Oilers and a so-so Habs team, as Jari Kurri netted his 50th goal of the season, reaching the mark for the first time. However, the game tied 2-2. Bob Gainey scored for the Habs with 90 seconds to play to hand the Oilers a loss. But they are back over a homestand, and it starts with an easy 9-1 win over the Kings. Glenn Anderson nets a hat-trick, while Paul Coffey has a goal and 3 helpers for 4 points. Linseman had a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. Moog plays great in net. The Oilers then trailed the high-powered Sabres 3-2 in the third, but thanks to an early equalizer and late-game winner for Mark Messier in the third period, they took it 4-3, and Fuhr stopped 30 shots. Against Hartford, the team that embarrassed them just a month prior, well, Glenn Anderson notched his third hat-trick of the year, 4 goals, and reaches 50 goals for the first time in his career as well, as he has been just outstanding lately. His first goal opened the scoring, second gave them a 3-2 lead, his third gave them a 4-3 lead with 1:26 to go, and it proved to be the game winner, as he did add the empty netter for his fourth, with 3 seconds to play for a 5-3 triumph. Coffey had 3 assists and is the hottest player in the NHL at this point. But the Oilers played a disaster of a game at home against the St. Louis Blues that put a major stop to their 3-game win streak, as all-star Bernie Federko and rookie Doug Gilmour put the boots to the Edmonton Oilers 7-1. It was only their 5th loss at home all year, would be their last and definitely their worst loss all year on home ice. But the Oilers still had 3 games to go, all against division rivals, all of whom they dominated most of this season, and that wouldn't change. Well, first off, it's the Jets, and they came so close but so far to beating Edmonton once again, as Anderson had 2 goals and an assist for 3 points, and Linseman had 2 assists in a 3-2 win over the Jets. Edmonton won all 8 outings against them. Then it was a big 9-2 win in Calgary, as they went 7-0-1 against the Flames this season. Gretzky, another huge night, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, and reached 200 points for the second time in his career. Messier reaches 100 points for the second straight year, as Kurri and McClellan each had a goal and 2 assists. And finally, they end the season with a 4-3 win over the Kings, who will miss the playoffs for the second straight year. Coffey has 2 goals and an assist. Gretzky has 3 helpers. And late season call-up Raimo Suominen out of Finland has a goal and 2 assists as well for 3 points. And the Kings actually had probably one of the better luck against the Oilers in their division this year, as the Oilers went 6-2 against them. And indeed, the Oilers went 10-3-0 to end the season. A month that was a mere formality. Their playoff spot had been long locked up. They secured the division title with their first game of the month and finished the year an astounding 57 wins, 18 losses, 5 ties, 119 points, best record in their NHL history of 5 seasons, best record in the NHL that year. The closest to them were the New York Islanders and Bruins with 104 points each, still 15 ahead of both of them. They dominated their division, going 27-3-2 against them, and the closest team to them were the second-place Flames, who still finished 37 points behind them. Well, Gretzky and Coffey actually tied the scoring lead this time, 11 goals, 17 assists, and 28 points for the Great One, while Paul Coffey was just playing on another level himself, 7 goals, 21 assists for 28 points, as both men averaged just above 2 points a game. Glenn Anderson, who also is playing crazy great hockey, with the team leading 13 goals for the month, including 2 hat-tricks, adding 6 assists for 19 points, while Mark Messier was also on fire for 19 points of his own, tying Anderson for points in this month. Kurri was fully back on track for the month, while Linseman was making some tremendous setups and he was playing fantastically. Kevin McClellan deserves a lot of credit for how well he played all month, as Lumley also played well. Hunter and Hughes, again, doing their thing. And once again, Willie Lidstrom pops up with a couple huge games when he least expected, while Pozar stayed steady, and Suominen played very well when he was called out. I mean, Paul Coffey was crazy good all year, but these last 2 months he was truly something of a marvel to behold, and just on top of what he could already do. Led defensemen scoring every month of the season, of course, and led the team this month with a huge plus 17. Charlie Huddy, however, was in full command of many situations yet again this month, as was Kevin Lowe, finding some blue line grit as well, and Randy Gregg was again formidable. Rick Chartraw played actually pretty well now, in the absence of Don Jackson as he upped his game, and veteran Lee Fogelin was playing harder than ever while showing tremendous leadership. Both goalies played very well this month, perhaps the best they played all season. Even though Fuhr suffered a few losses, he was actually superb in his wins, garnered a 4-3-0 record with a really good 3.29 goals against average. Remember, folks, context of the era. However, Andy Moog was sensational. He went undefeated, winning all 6 games he played with an awesome 2.79 goals against average, which is going to pose many questions going into the playoffs. Well, the season has come to a close, and now we look at the final numbers. The Oilers broke their own record of goals in a season, which was set the year prior with 424, and they scored an astronomical 446, which still stands as of 2023. For goals against, they only allowed one less than the year prior with 314 and were 10th rather than 11th with 315, so still in the middle in that regard out of 21 teams, as their offensive dominance didn't seem to hurt that aspect of statistics. Their power play, however, was very dominant as usual, but fell a spot to second this year as it was first the year prior. This year, the Minnesota North Stars had the best power play in the league. Their penalty kill had improved quite a bit, actually, moving from 9th to 6th in the league, and it was definitely a part of this team growing in a huge piece of the puzzle. The prior season, the Oilers had became the second team in NHL history to have 4 players to reach 100 points, but now they become the first team to do it twice. Wayne Gretzky, let's see, 87 goals, 118 assists, 205 points. And what's crazy about those stats? They're not even his career highs in any of those departments. If he hadn't missed those 6 games, I truly believe one or maybe even all of those records would have been broken. But what another incredible year for the great one. Paul Coffey, 40 goals, 86 assists, 126 points, a career year and an amazing playmaking defenseman, dazzling fans with his amazing skating skills and highlight reel plays, right up there with Wayne on the nightly news, it seemed. Jari Kurri, career highs across the board as well. 52 goals, 61 assists, and 113 points, and he did this in just 64 games. Also, he did very well on the defensive forecheck and back check. Jari Kurri was a good all-around forward. Mark Messier played with grit and style and made it look oh so good, with 37 goals, 64 assists, and 101 points, career high in assists, and just 3 short of his career high in points, and was also solid defensively to boot. The Oilers nearly became the first team in NHL history to have 5 players with 100 points, as Glenn Anderson had 99 points going into the final 2 games of the season. However, he did go pointless, but it didn't matter. He truly had an incredible year in his own right. 54 goals, a career high. First time he'd ever reached the 50-goal mark. What a year for Glenn. Ken Linseman also proved to provide that pesky presence, getting under the skin of the opposition and making some outstanding setups for goals. And their character players also upped their game, as Dave Hunter and Pat Hughes contributed quite a bit offensively. Lemley, Huzar, and Lindstrom lent a significant hand to the team as well in certain games, while Kevin McClellan was a robbery of a deal, providing more depth, as well as his size and toughness was an asset. And hey, he could be in on a lot of goals too. Okay, so needless to say, Wayne Gretzky wins his 4th straight scoring title. However, Paul Coffey finishes 2nd in the league in scoring. First time since Bobby Orr in 1974-75, a defenseman has even finished in the top 5 in that category. So yeah, of course, Coffey leads all defensemen in scoring. Jari Kurri finished 7th in the league in scoring with his 113 points, while Messier and Anderson were just outside the top 10. Well, what do you know? Wayne Gretzky leads the team with a plus 78. And who would have thought Paul Coffey would lead all defensemen in scoring? Oh gosh, who knows? So anyway, smart-ass comments aside, Paul Coffey had a season not seen since the likes of the man he'd been out to compare to, being Bobby Orr, of course. However, credit also goes to Charlie Huddy, who complimented Coffey and the team's all-out attack strategy and deserves far more credit than he got, but is still fondly remembered by Oilers fans of this era, despite what certain YouTube videos might say about him. Kevin Lowe was great at making long passes, sending in top scorers in on breaks, and could also get physical when he had to, and he, at this point, was actually starting to get a little more credit for what he could do. Randy Gregg also had a really good year and was also key in starting many onslaughts and rushes. While Don Jackson, when healthy, played pretty well. Former captain and longtime veteran Lee Fogland, again, stuck to that traditional defense style, and he still proved to be a key element on the blue line. While despite getting off to a hard start when he was acquired, Rick Chartraw filled in well for Jackson near the end of the season. So it's no surprise, Gretzky leads the league again in plus-minus for the 3rd straight season. Last year he shared the lead with Huddy. However, Huddy and Coffey are tied for 6th in the league with a plus 52. Paul Coffey's 126 points gave him the 3rd best total of all time for a defenseman, behind Bobby Orr's marks of 135 at 2nd and 139 being the best mark for a defenseman in league history. Coffey is now etching himself among the annals of great NHL players. The Oilers goaltenders, All-Stars Grant Fuhr and Andy Moog, and while their numbers varied in given months, their final numbers are actually quite close. Grant Fuhr played the most games, however, and had a tremendous 30-10-4 record. However, Moog's 27-8-1 record is also something to behold. Moog had the better goals against average, however, this season with a 3.78, while Fuhr's was pushing closer to 4, however, with 3.91. Their save percentages were, however, pretty much identical. 883 for Fuhr, 882 for Moog. They each had a shutout as well, and the Oilers' attack style meant they were often left unprotected, even from their defense, but they held the Oilers in many wins, and both put on some amazing performances this season. Now, with these numbers, you're probably not going to see them in the top 10 in most categories. However, Grant Fuhr did lead the league in wins with 30, and Moog's 27 was just outside the top 5. And you know what? That's what they did best. Win. But now the Oilers are faced with the big question, and who do they go with come playoff time? Grant has had no playoff success whatsoever, and Moog was their guy last year all the way to the final. And now, let's look at award season, and well... Wayne Gretzky wins his 5th straight Hart Trophy as league MVP. He has won the award every year he's been in the league at this point, and nearly tripled the votes of runner-up Rod Langway of the Capitals. Gretzky received his 3rd straight Pearson Trophy, as well as Player's Choice MVP, which we know today as the Ted Lindsay Award. However, those would actually be the only awards the Oilers would receive this season. It was a shock, as Paul Coffey was actually the first runner-up for the Norris Trophy, as many thought it was a lock for him to win it with the year he had. He had received 126 votes, which was actually the same point total he had. 101, however, behind winner Rod Langway, who won it for the 2nd straight time. However, Paul also got some votes for the Hart Trophy as league MVP, coming in 10th place. Charlie Huddy, speaking of the Norris Trophy, however, also got himself a few votes for the Norris and came in 6th. Jari Kurri was a finalist for the Lady Byng Trophy, and voting was very tight despite coming in 3rd, as he was the 2nd runner-up and was only 73 votes shy of winner Mike Bossy of the Islanders. Gretzky, however, came in 6th for the award, and that exemplifies excellence and sportsmanship. Kurri was also the finalist for the Selke Trophy as the league's top defenseman forward, but again was the 2nd runner-up. Coming in 3rd, Doug Jarvis was the runaway winner from the Capitals. Mark Messier also notched a vote for the award and was tied for 28th. And Grant Fuhr got a handful of votes for the Vezina Trophy as the league's top goaltender, coming in 6th place. He was the first runner-up 2 years prior to his rookie year, while Andy Moog, who came in 5th the season prior for Vezina Trophy voting, received no votes this year. And now to the All-Star teams. The first All-Star team, and hey, well, there's Wayne. Yes, indeed, first-team All-Star for the 4th straight year. The only time he wasn't was in his first NHL season, where he was still a second-team All-Star. However, he was the only Oiler player on that first All-Star team that, again, this whole list features 5 Hall of Famers, and like I said, definitely make a case for Barrasso. But the second All-Star team was filled with Oilers players, as Jari Kurri obtains his first All-Star selection. Messier, after 2 years straight of being a first-team All-Star, is on the second team. However, Paul Coffey for the 3rd straight season as a second-team All-Star. And many felt Coffey was robbed here of a first-team selection, and with all due respect to both Rod Langway and Ray Bourque, there is a valid argument there. But either way, this Oilers team had a remarkable season, and now they're a little older, a little wiser. Gretzky proved his leadership skills, and they don't seem to be just relying on their natural talents anymore. But will that be the case as we get ready for playoff time? And indeed, that'll be our next video. This is it for part 1 of our look at the 1983-84 Edmonton Oilers. And until part 2, I'll see ya!